As a Java programmer, you must have come across enums at some point. You think they're just simple things where you can define a name and just give some values, but suddenly one day you see something that looks like this, where suddenly they have like attributes and things in these parentheses, and you're like, how the hell does this all work, right? What the hell does enums do under the hood? So in this video, I'll show you everything you need to know about enums, how Java actually implements them, and this way you'll develop a deep understanding and natural intuition on reasoning about enums on your own, so you can easily figure out what's possible, what you can do, and what you cannot do with enums. So first, let's go back to the simpler version of the code. Right now, when you think about how Java implement enums, let's first define some properties of what an enum should satisfy, right? So we all know that with an enum, you create a finite set of objects, right? So once you define shirt sizes with small, medium, large, you can only access these three values, right? Small, medium, large. You cannot create any new instances of this enum, right? So there's like a finite set of objects. Secondly, they are referenced directly using the class name. When I try to access a shirt size small, I just say shirt sizes.small. I don't create a new object of this class or anything, or call like value of or anything like you see with other classes. I just directly go shirt sizes.small. The other thing to keep in mind is that they are comparable using double equals, right? So if I say right here, like small equal to small, you'll see that the output is true. And then if I say small equal to medium, you'll see the output is false, right? So basically, if I have small and I have small, they're always going to be equal, right? Unlike other objects in Java where like if you create two instances, they are not necessarily double equals and you have to use dot equals. So we know the equal comparison works for the same types of objects. The other property is like there's no inheritance supported, right? So you can't have like an enum extend another enum, or you can't have something extending your enum, right? So we know these properties are there. Now think to yourself, if you had to create something in Java, if you didn't have enums and you had to create something in Java with these properties, how would you do it, right? So let's try and do that over here. In the absence of enum, we know that we can create at least a class, right? So we can create a class, let's say shirt sizes, right? And now for it to have a finite set of objects, we can enforce this by creating a private constructor, right? So if we have a private constructor, no one can create another object of our class. Only the class itself can create it. Now, the other thing is the objects are referenced directly using class names. So that means in order to be able to do shirt sizes.small, there must be a public static final shirt sizes over here that is named small, right? And we can instantiate this to new shirt sizes, right? So this is going to be an object of shirt sizes, and it's just going to be public static final. And this way equal comparison will also work, right? Because it's anytime you access small, it's going to be this object. We're not recreating a new object. We're not allowing them to create new objects. And there's no inheritance supported. So the way you say no inheritance is Java is just put it final, right? So no one can extend this class. Now, if we try to replicate like small, medium, large, right, just like we have over here, this is basically equivalent to this, right? So this is basically how Java does enums, right? And now we can just test it out real quick by running the same code over here and making sure it works. So I fixed a few errors here, just added static because this one is inside this other class, but normally you don't have to have static. And I just fixed some typos over here to make it match the class name. So anyway, you can see here that, you know, these two comparisons work as is, and only this one is different, and we'll come to that in a second. So you can see that when we print the object, it just prints the name of the object, right? So, you know, the enum class probably has some, you know, toString implementation that literally prints out the name of the object. And I'm sure Java has some fancy way of doing this, but basically we won't kind of go into that right now. So now that you have this basic skeleton, right, like you start asking yourself, okay, well, what are things that I can do here that maybe I can do here? So if I ask, like, can I add methods or attributes, right? So sure, I can add Like let's say if I add a chest size and a length over here, I could do it something like this, right? And now over here, I just have to pass in the chest sizes and the lengths. So since this is something you could do here, it's definitely something that you can do here too, right? So I can add the same thing over here. I'll just paste it over here. Now, this part, I can just paste it over here. So the convention of enums, this basically is a way of calling the constructor. So I've gone ahead and updated the values over here. So you can see that these is equivalent. So now if I print over here small.chest, and over here also I print small.chest, we can see the output is the same, 38, right? So by keeping in mind this framework where you have a final class and you can do whatever over here, and this is the constructor, you can basically map that to this, right? Now you might ask, okay, can I override the toString? So let's say in the toString, I put like the concatenation of the chest and the length. So I concatenate it over here and I just print out shirt sizes dot maybe medium over here, right? Now I can do this, since you can do this here, you can also do the same on an enum, right? So you can literally override the toString method on an enum. And if you print out medium, we should expect both to return the same output. So let's run the code. And yeah, you can see the output is the same, right? So basically whatever you can do with this class, you can basically think about it as an enum. And if you see something in an enum, you can just map it back to how it's done in a class. And that's how you can reason about what you can and cannot do with an enum. So now you might ask, like, why should I use this enum, right? If I could just do this, right? Like, what are the additional advantages that using an enum in Java provides, right? So one of them is the code looks cleaner. You can obviously see that this is a bit more cleaner than having to do something like this and maintaining your own instances. The second advantage is thread safety, right? So for example, Java has a specific way how it initializes these, and if you have multiple enums in your system implemented like this, you could run into weird like initialization ordering issues. With explicit enums, Java knows to kind of deal with these first, and you won't run into any like thread safety or initialization issues. The other thing is that you can avoid some pitfalls, like for example, if you override equals over here, but you forgot to override hash code or things like that, you know, the enum class kind of abstracts those best practices. The other thing is like if you put this object in a hash map or a hash set, right? If it's just a regular class, Java cannot do any optimizations because it doesn't know that you only have 3 objects, right? But if you explicitly make an enum, Java has classes like enum map and enum set where it can optimize the hashing of the enum because it knows it's an enum. There's only a finite set of objects, right? So the other advantage is that the enum class comes with some utility function. So for example, I can say system.out.print shirt sizes.values, which returns an array of all the values. So if I run this, it will basically print the toString of all of the values in the enum, right? And if I remove my toString override, it will literally just print the small, medium, and large values right over here. So this is a utility function which can give me all the values, which you'll have to build manually over here. And you can also do value of. So like if I undo my toString, right, and I say shirt sizes value of, let's say, large, right? If I just have a string and I want to map it to an enum, the Java enum class already does that for me. I had to get rid of the arrays.toString because it's no longer an array, but you can see over here that this value of large just prints, the toString of the large enum. It automatically mapped it to the enum value. So this is another utility advantage that you get by using the built-in enum class, which again, you'll have to do manually with the if else or switch case if you do it yourself. But anyway, the point of the video is that by visualizing an enum using this format, you can easily reason about what's going on, what you can do, what you cannot do. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Check out my playlist for more Java tips.